Hi guys, I'm Glyza, and today we'll talk about the four waves of feminism. But to better understand the discussion ahead, we'll first define the term feminism. Feminism throughout the video will pertain to the idea that men and women should have equal rights in society, the economy, and politics. Now let's start with the first wave of feminism, which began around 1848 and lasted until 1920, and focused primarily on obtaining women's legal rights, emphasizing that they are humans too and not mere objects. This is because back then, women weren't allowed to enter legal contracts, own properties, or even get employed, and if permitted to work, their husbands get to claim their wages. They also couldn't file cases as they had no legal personhood, so marital rape and domestic violence technically did not even legally exist. On the other hand, being unmarried was also not an option to avoid such instances as it was unacceptable in society to be a spinster. With all these issues, the Seneca Falls Convention or Women's Right Convention, composed of upper-class cisgender women who wanted to abolish slavery, advance the legal rights status of women, and acquire women's social and economic power, decided to stand up and aim for societal change. They collated 12 resolutions advocating for particular rights, including suffrage or the right to vote. By 1919, they succeeded as the 19th Amendment to the United States Constitution, which grants women the right to vote, was finally ratified. With this wave's empowerment, the media can now depict women as masculine and as capable as men without raising an issue. For instance, the film entitled Enola Holmes showed an example of the social standards for women before, like in how Enola, the main character, was expected to dress, study, and succumb to her brothers as she is a woman, deemed inferior to men. The film depicted women as inferior social beings who are dependent and do not have the freedom to decide for themselves, implying the limitations placed upon them by society. Still, Enola was represented like the first wave feminists as instead of yielding, she tried to challenge the social norms expected of a woman by dressing as she wished, pursuing education in her own way, and deciding for herself in marriage and livelihood. But regardless of the achievements of the first wave of feminism, there were still issues that remained unsolved since only white upper-class women were part of the women's suffrage movement, excluding the white middle class and black feminists. This is the reason for the coming of the second wave of feminism, which began around 1963 and lasted until 1980s. During this wave, it was common to fire women from their jobs due to pregnancy. Also, women couldn't apply for credit without their husband's approval, only had little protection from the government against sexual harassment and domestic violence, and only had access to low-skill and paying jobs. A famous book called The Feminine Mystic by Betty Friedan challenged the stereotypes of women as aspiring wives and mothers and added to the overall goal of this wave, which is to urge society to rethink the established gender roles in society and end the rampant sexist, race, and class discrimination. This wave's achievements include striking down of sex-segregated job ads, prohibition of discrimination based on sex or educational programs, barring employers from firing their employees based on sex or pregnancy, and several campaigns against the rampant pornography. This wave helped women overcome social barriers and allow their representation as non-feminine characters, like in J. Howard Miller's poster entitled We Can Do It. There, Miller showed a contradicting image of women's gender roles and went against society's standards, that is, to act femininely, enter a feminine type career, aspire to become housewives, and depend on their husbands. Instead of conforming to this, Miller depicted women as masculine and independent, going against the stereotype towards them. Now, unlike the first two waves, the third wave of feminism, which began around the 1990s, had no particular agenda. It was more of a cultural revolution, apart from trying to handle the issues of shortage of women in positions of power and workplace harassment cases. During this wave, women started to portray themselves as powerful, strong, independent, and liberated, and feminists encourage others to express themselves confidently. They also promoted the idea of inclusivity for people regardless of their race and gender. However, as feminists appropriated derogatory terms and provocative activities like slut walks and topless protests, the conservative feminists distanced themselves from the community. Still, the goals and achievements of this wave encouraged and enabled women to voice their opinions, fight for their rights, and spread awareness regarding women's rights in workplaces. Like in the informative video made by the National Commission of Women in India. Although the content was very concise, this awareness video successfully relayed its message and informed women of their rights in their workplaces to ensure that they get to work in a safe environment without the risks of any discrimination or aggravations. Moving on, the last or fourth wave of feminism, which is believed to be the present wave we face today, aims to break down boundaries and dismantle oppressive power structures using the evolving technology called the internet. It focuses on the persisting cases of sexual harassment, rape, body shaming, and several other issues. Its most known event was the Me Too campaign by Tarana Burke in 2007, which strived to fight the prevalence of sexual harassment and violence against women and to help the victims achieve justice by calling out the abusers on the internet, where people may discover the misdeeds of the abusers and highly humiliate and boycott them through the infamous culture called the cancel culture. However, the current issue with this wave is its inclusiveness, as unlike the previous waves, it was not well received by everyone. Now, the movement still tries to deal with the concept of intersectionality and how the movement may be inclusive and reflect various sexualities, ethnicities, genders, and classes. In the end, this wave encouraged the use of the internet and media in fighting sexual harassment like body shaming by empowering all women of all races and sizes, just like Hiraya Filipina. This local brand sells nipple pasties, and in promoting their brand, they decided to make the pasties available in different sizes and shades and use models of different body sizes and skin colors to promote inclusivity and ensure customers that they can cater to everyone's needs, that everyone belongs to the community regardless of their physical attributes and personal backgrounds, and that they should be more confident and accepting of who they are. So, that concludes our video for today. I hope you learned a lot and see you again next time.